Welcome back to another episode of the Makers Podcast. My guest on today's show is Chris Smith, former founder, now partner at Playfair Capital, the VC fund that invests in entrepreneurs building technology companies that rethink the way we think, live, work, and play. Just before we dive into today's episode, our friends at Market Minds have a quick message for you. Are you interested in insurance innovation and want to know where you fit in? Market Minds, creators of Insurance 3.0, the world's largest one-day insurtech conference, are hosting the IFT Summit on March the 6th. The agenda is set to be insane. Titans from insurance, technology, and tech-giving individuals will be giving the most up-to-date insights on the market. So, if you are interested in attending this awesome event, simply head over to marketmindsgroup.com or the IFT Summit on Eventbrite and get that ticket booked. Now, let's dive into today's episode. So, Chris, welcome to the show. How's it going?
Good, yeah. Busy, as we discussed before we started. Flying off to Hong Kong in about 28 hours. So, just trying to get a few deals moved forward and a few things done before I get on the plane.
Awesome. So, let's start off. What did you have for breakfast this morning?
I had shredded wheat and 2 pieces of toast.
Okay, nice. And what is your favourite company right now, apart from any company in the Playfair's portfolio?
I want to pick a portfolio company first.
Okay, pick one portfolio and then we'll go to one outside.
Okay, perfect. So the company in the portfolio is called Cytech, a deal we did recently, and it's a software computer vision company based in Israel, and they're helping to power autonomous drones and other flying vehicles. So a very cool bit of technology spun out of Ben Gurion University. So the CTO is a professor who did 25 years of research into the space. And then the MD is a guy that I know. Did an M&A deal with him when he was at Amdocs and I was a lawyer in my former life. Just a really fascinating company, fascinating space. So that would be my pick from the portfolio. Other companies doing interesting things. It's a good question. Come back to me.
Come back to you. At the end.
Because I'm going to be biased. Because I'm going to go straight for my pipeline, and I'm going to go straight to companies in the portfolio.
Be biased. What is one thing you wish you did differently before you turned 20?
Before I turned 20, wow. I'm going to say not to study law, but that's kind of like I don't know. So I found studying law it used a lot of time. It was kind of 3 years of my life. And at the same time, I had a telecoms business that I started at university. And I always have that question mark over if I'd spent all my time and all my energy into that telecoms business, where could I have taken it?
Fair enough. So moving on to the next question, university or just cracking on with life?
I still think that going to university and reading something that is meaningful to you and is applicable to the work world is a good step. And after that, I also think that working at a blue chip, strong branded company is a good thing to do as well. So to give you an example, chatting to a guy the other day who works with Kickstart London, he's got an offer from JP Morgan. Should he take it or should he do something in the startup world? And my answer was him, go to JP Morgan. You may hate it, but you'll get 2 or 3 years of really good experience, really good skills, and then you can leverage it and move afterwards.
And are you an early bird or night owl?
I would say night owl. Yeah.
Okay, and you're trapped on a desert island. You can take 3 things. Your family are already there. What's the other 2 things?
Okay, so I would take my phone, because that then accesses... I would need my phone and some way of getting some kind of signal, because I need Spotify, I need apps, I need to be able to read things.
Okay, fair.
And then that's 2 things, right? Phone,
yeah, and
some way of getting a data connection. And then unlimited food and water.
Not sure how we're going to get that, but okay.
I think that's cheating as well. I think that's 4 things.
No worries. And the most inspirational person right now in your life?
I think it's probably our founder and chairman, actually, Federico. So he is involved in the fund to a certain extent, but he's really let us, run the day-to-day, so myself and the rest of the team, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. But the reason is he is so motivated by making an impact, and so he set up Playfair Capital, which is a pretty incredible thing to do. He set up a VC fund and make it successful. But now he's angel investing in Africa and investing in companies and entrepreneurs that just would never have the opportunity to start businesses. Making a real difference in their life as well.
And who's the one person you'd like to meet you still haven't met in your entrepreneur's world or VC world?
So I would really like to meet Bill Gates, which is maybe a little bit cliched, but I think he's had such an interesting trajectory from the founding of Microsoft, obviously making it one of the most successful companies in the world, and then having the energy, determination to then set up his foundation and still be kind of actively involved with it day to day. I think it's pretty awesome.
Well, we're trying to get him on the show as well.
Brilliant.
At some point. So Bill, if you're out there, come along. So you've had a varied career from telecoms now to VC.
Yeah.
Could you just summarise your career in 2 minutes?
I'll try and do it in 2 minutes. So I kind of went quite a traditional path, did a law degree, then joined a US law firm in London called Weil. I was doing private equity and M&A work for 8.5, 9 years. And I had enough of it, so I moved to a family office in the Isle of Man called Brandon Investments. Really interesting guy there called Dan Craddock, and he was a very successful entrepreneur. He was like 35, worth £500 million, lots of things he'd done in the past. And we set out to build a portfolio of companies. And what actually happened is we really focused on 2 companies. One was Van Capital, a litigation funding business, worked with them for about 4 months. The other one was Plan.com, which is a telecom business. It's not particularly well known, but actually recently was ranked number 1 in the tech track, 50 million of revenue, and about 100 staff. So I joined that company as the 8th member of the team and just sort of bounced around the business doing different things. So I was sales director, built the sales team, ran the software development team, the data science team, did a bit of M&A on board a VoIP company, and just had a lot of fun doing a lot of operational things. Very different from what I thought I was going to do when I moved there. But it was a fantastic experience to be able to help startups that I work with now. And I guess in parallel to that, I started angel investing in 2008, which all came about because I was sent on secondment with my law firm to Silicon Valley. And I used to go for lunch to a bagel shop in Redwood Shores. And I used to sit there, and every day people were flipping open laptops and they were talking about new business ideas. I didn't really know what was going on, so I started to research, started to listen a bit more carefully, and I kind of realised what was happening. People were pitching for investment, started to figure out how the angel and the VC ecosystem worked. And so when I came back to London, I did my first angel investment into a burrito company, so not into a tech company at all. Yeah. And I learned why you probably shouldn't invest in a food business. Although that company is successful, it has all the issues of brick and mortar, and it's really hard to scale, and it's very dilutive every time you want to raise money and open a new store, and then move to investing in tech. So I think I've done 14 deals across the US and the UK. A few have imploded, as you'd expect. 3 exits, a couple of IPO'd, and then a couple of nice ones in the portfolio as well. And then, as you mentioned, finally, set up a telecoms business at university and built that with a co-founder, and then exited to him just before I started my legal career. So I think all of that kind of coalesces and comes together and sort of puts me into the role at Playfair now.
So you always wanted to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I've always found business fascinating. I like starting things. So I think the idea and then executing that idea to get your first customers, the first thing that you do as a business, is really exciting. And I think at Plan.com, when we got to 100 people, I was ready to move on. I felt I'd sort of done what I needed to. And I think that's why seed stage VC is most exciting for me, because actually you're meeting entrepreneurs really early in their journey.
Amazing, Chris. So you've been at Playfair for now just 2.5 months. Why did you want to join a VC firm, and how's it going so far?
So I think taking kind of all those experiences I just mentioned, I think that what I enjoy most is looking at new things, looking at new technologies, figuring out how you can make them work in the market, figuring out how you're going to sell your product, and helping entrepreneurs take those first steps. So for me, Plan.com, first year, maybe 2 years, was an amazing journey. So if I can replicate that with 20 or 25 different founding teams that we invest in, it's going to be an awful lot of fun. And I also like the fact that I think if you're working in a single business, there is the the danger that you kind of get to a point where you're just doing the same processes over and over again. It's really just about more sales. Whereas in VC, you're constantly looking at different companies, different industries, and learning new things. So for me, it's a very challenging job, but it's one that's very exciting as well.
And Playfair has invested in a number of companies, but what industries are you really excited about right now?
Yeah, so Playfair has invested quite broadly in the past. I'd say with a focus probably on kind of deep tech. I think where we're leaning going forward is in the deep tech space, so AI, machine learning, and computer vision. I think we probably are leaning towards B2B. I think consumer businesses are just really tough. It's hard to scale and it's very expensive. But because of the way we're set up, we're a single LP fund. So our founder and chairman, Fede, he contributes all our capital. So we don't have a very tight mandate. And that means that we can invest quite broadly. For me, key thing is the founder. So I get founders. I mentioned the company Cytec before. I didn't think autonomous drones and computer vision software was the first place I was going to research or the first place I was going to make an investment. But it was about the founder. I met the founder, the guy running the company. That sort of convinced me this was the right deal to do.
So you've invested in companies such as F6S, Hassel.com, Stripe.
Yeah.
What makes a great entrepreneur?
Character. And I think sometimes it's quite hard to assess, but the key determinant for me of success is persistence and having the grits to keep going when things get difficult. There are a bunch of other things, awareness of when to pivot, when to change strategy, and a whole host of skills you need, but fundamentally it's down to character and not giving up. And I think when I meet a founder for the first time, I kind of, if they're a founder that I want to back, I'll know very quickly. And I'll just kind of get this feeling, this kind of excited feeling that I think this is the person that I want to invest in. And I think it's very similar to the hiring process. I think if you're hiring someone, you just get it's fit. You just get that feeling that they're the right person.
And so if someone comes in right now, do you decide in the first 20 seconds if you like them? Or
So look, I think as an angel investor, you decide very, very quickly, probably after one, maybe two meetings, you do a little bit of Googling and then you cut a check. Obviously, as a VC, it's very different. We want to do a thorough job. We want to fully understand the team, the product, the market, and everything else. But yes, I think we make a quick decision at the outset, a gut decision. We want to back this person. And then from that point onwards, you're then supporting that decision. And of course, there'll be things that come up along the way that mean, actually, you know what, he's a great guy or a great girl, but there's something that we don't like about the business. But yeah, I think you make the decision and then you sort of work from there.
And do you hands-on VC, or would you let entrepreneurs just get on with the work?
So I think because we invest pretty early and we have, certainly in the current portfolio, quite a few sort of first-time founders, we do tend to be fairly hands-on, obviously if the company needs it. And I think we're quite a small team, but we have a real mix of skill sets. So, my favourite thing to do and something I've got experience of is that, how do you go from your founding team to 20, 50, 100 employees? What problems do you have? What missteps are you going to make? How do you change your communication strategy? And all the sort of piece around growing the company. We've got Joe Thornton, who's an investor at Playfair. So his background is Google and Facebook technical recruitment. So he helps portfolio companies with CTO, VP engineering hires and assessing tech talent, because that's one of the hardest things actually is you meet a CTO who seems great, but you need to assess them. So we help with that. So yeah, I would say we're pretty hands-on, and obviously success for us is helping the team grow their company, hit whatever metrics they need, whether it's revenue metrics, users, whatever it is, and then getting to that next funding round.
And do you want companies to sell within 5 years as soon as you've invested in them, or is it just when the time comes?
No, so we're definitely patient. We're definitely sort of long-term investors, and I think again, because of our single LP structure, we don't have to get out in, say, 10 years. We don't have a fund lifetime as strict as that. And that's nice because if you're investing in some of the deep tech companies I mentioned earlier, it can actually take you a long time to build a successful company, particularly where you've got companies that are building complex algorithms that need to be trained and refined over time, or where you need to gather a huge amount of data to then start start using and start demonstrating some value. So no, I think we're pretty patient, and we definitely want big exits. That's the nature of the that's the VC model, right? It's the power law. So we need big exits, and so we're prepared to be patient.
And you say it can take a long time to build a company.
Yeah.
It can also take a long time to get the company to fail.
Yes.
What are those conversations like when an entrepreneur's company's failed with a VC or investors?
So, fortunately, I haven't had to have too many of those conversations.
Not yet.
Not yet. They'll come. Look, I think it's really situation specific. I think some founders, and I think if we back the right founders, even in a stress situation or in a situation where the company is not successful, they will generally make the right moves, even if that right move is ultimately to shut the company down. I think if we made a bad decision and not back the right people, then it can get a little bit more difficult.
And I guess, how do you spot key trends in markets, emerging markets?
Yeah, so I think I've said it before, most important thing is the founders. So we do, I think, really two main things. The first thing we do, which is probably the main thing, is we listen to what founders are telling us. So I mentioned before we started the conversation that we get inbounded a lot, as most VCs do, and you can immediately see patterns. So you can see you're getting a ton of inbound around construction technology or whatever it might be. So you see that there's entrepreneurial interest around a particular space or a particular problem, which suggests that those entrepreneurs who know the space better than I do have found some kind of niche or some kind of opportunity. So I think we're very much led by founders. And then, of course, although we're not, we don't have a sort of public thesis driving our investing, we're more about the founding team. I think internally, we're certainly starting to build up some of those. So, certainly sort of human in the loop AI is something that we're looking into very seriously as an area that we think is right for investment. I think computer vision, off the back of the investment we've done in Israel, is an area we'll look into more deeply as well. But fundamentally, the people who know what's going on in the market are the entrepreneurs that we back, so we tend to listen to them.
What are the key trends for 2019?
So I think you've still got, I think deep tech is still this sort of macro trend that continues to accelerate. I think that there is more realism in the market now. So before you would get decks saying, this is an AI solution to this huge problem. And now you're getting, actually, this is an AI solution to a very niche or specific industry-focused problem, because people have realized you can't just apply AI, this term, to everything. So we're seeing people becoming a bit more realistic, a little bit more sector-focused. I think that AR and VR is a trend, one that I'm watching, but very much from the sidelines, because it's been the year of AR and VR for as long as I can remember. Nothing meaningful has really happened, and a lot of VCs have got burned going early. I think we're tracking autonomous vehicles. So again, after this deal, we're particularly interested in drone technology for delivery, for surveillance. I'm interested in flying cars, which is I thought kind of pretty fanciful.
Flying cars?
Yeah.
Do you think it's going to happen?
So look, I don't necessarily think that each of us is going to be driving a flying car. Okay? You drive through London, you can see how dangerous it is just on the streets.
Harry Potter.
But do I think that you could have flying taxis or flying shuttles doing the last few miles from the airport? Yeah, I do actually. And I think that Airbus, Boeing, all the big guys are putting a lot of money into it. So I think it's definitely an interesting area to watch.
Interesting. And do you co-invest with other VCs, or do you first do?
Yeah, absolutely. So we like, obviously we like to lead deals. We're also, I think we're equally happy actually, collaborating on deals with other funds as well. One of the, the heritage of the fund, when Fede set it up back in 2013, was always very collaborative. He actually he started as an angel before he incorporated Playfair. And he was working out of White Bear Yard and did some deals with Passion Capital. We've done deals with Passion. I think that, often, particularly if they're round at seed stage, they're getting bigger. So, £1 million, £1.5 million at seed is not unusual now. Then a couple of funds working together, makes a lot of sense, and we use our different strengths.
You've got some super interesting companies in your portfolio.
Yeah.
Are there any exits on the horizon?
Yeah, there are none that I can talk about, unfortunately. But yes, we've got one that is very close, and we've got another which is hopefully coming down the track pretty soon.
All in tech, I presume, or
Yeah.
exciting. And what does the future hold? Are you going to expand overseas, or?
So I think we very deliberately kept the fund a certain size. So when we raised the second fund, which I should say has not been announced yet, but I can tell you today it's fine. It's 25 million, and we've got a team of 5, and we're going to do about 25 deals. And the reason all those numbers are important is because we want to spend a good amount of time hands-on with each of our founders. So in the past, we've looked at taking external capital, we've looked at just raising a lot more money. Actually, we just don't think it makes a lot of sense for us. So we're going to stay very focused on those founding teams, kind of keep our angel mentality, kind of angel DNA. I think geographically, we are focused on the UK, although the first 2 deals we've done is Israel and Singapore. So again, we will be opportunistic where we can follow a really strong founder. And I think we will aim to do 25 deals over the next 3 years.
Amazing. And so you've been in the VC world for 2.5 months now?
Yeah.
Are you enjoying it?
Love it. It's absolutely amazing. I think that, obviously having angel invested for 10 years, I had a pretty good sense of, what I was looking for, of the process of doing deals. And I think having a brand like Playfair, and being able to get out there with some additional firepower it's amazing. It's just a fantastic opportunity. I think there are amazing entrepreneurs out there. So a lot has changed probably in the past 5-10 years, where now being an entrepreneur is not sort of frowned upon. I mean, when I was coming up and going to university and being a lawyer, if I told my parents that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, they'd have been like, "What? Sorry." And I think that's been a really positive thing, that more people see the benefit of starting companies. And of course, the more people start companies, just by pure numbers, the more good companies will come out, and we'll be able to invest in them.
I guess talking about young people, are you backing lots of young entrepreneurs now, or?
Yeah, so it's a mixture. So traditionally, we have backed a lot of first-time founders, and we'll continue to do that. But equally, we are finding second or third-time founders, or founders who've come out of a 10, 15-year sort of corporate stint with particular insights into their sector, also wanting to start businesses. So again, really the strength of the opportunity. I think in general, what I find is the first-time founders, you can't sort of fault for their ambition, their enthusiasm. We're going to make this an absolutely enormous company, which of course is what we want. But then the work on our side is probably a little bit more just getting them up to speed on the real world, and how you're actually going to do this, how you're going to raise your different rounds, what metrics you need to achieve. So it's almost bringing them back down to earth slightly, so it's a really executable plan. And then it's the flip side with the older founders, which is more, well, we're just going to build this quite steady company, hopefully we can exit for this number. No. Can this be a global business? Can you make it huge? So I think it's, and it's very person dependent as well.
Interesting. And you seeing lots more females now pitching, or is it a mix?
So again, we talked at the beginning that Joe and I went to Blooming Founders and had a good event there, and we did have a good number of female entrepreneurs pitching there. I think it's improving. I think we're seeing more female founders, whether they're the MD or part of the founding team. So I would say that's actually improved a significant amount. One area that we're particularly interested in actually is females in VC and female angels. So again, I think the VC industry has become very aware of it, and I think there's, like lots of other companies, there's sort of a move to make sure that it's fair and it's representative, and we have diversity that we should. Angels, though, is really interesting because I haven't got any sort of public stats on it, but I would hazard a guess that male angels probably 70%, 80%, I would say. If you go to the angel events, it's generally guys. So that's really interesting. I'd like to look into that a little bit more actually over the coming months. Is it an attitude thing? Is it the nature of the angel syndicates and the angel networks? What's going on there?
What should entrepreneurs do before they come pitch to you? I'm sure you see so many founders and entrepreneurs obviously trying to get your money, So what are maybe some of those key skills and presentation skills entrepreneurs should do before they come and pitch to you?
So I think, when you're preparing to talk to a VC, whether it's Playfair actually or anyone else, you need to have a really well-considered deck and a well-considered plan. And it surprises me actually sometimes. You just get decks that haven't been particularly well thought through. You see typos, just doesn't show entrepreneurs in the best light. So I think the best thing you can do as an entrepreneur actually is put yourselves in the shoes of a VC and imagine that you're seeing 15 to 20 companies a week, you're seeing 50 decks, big numbers, we see a lot of companies, and then think about how you stand out. And so for me, seeing a deck that is well designed, is not too long, and also leaves me interested enough to follow up, because a lot of decks will be 30 pages, a lot of numbers, a lot of detail, and I can't penetrate it. I don't have enough time. So what I prefer is something that actually teases me a bit more and says, this is our space, this is our innovation, this is what we're doing. If you'd like to find out more, let's have a conversation. And I was joking with someone the other day that I think, to a certain extent, an entrepreneur meeting a VC for the first time, it's like a first date. Yeah, you wanna. It's about chemistry. It's about building a relationship, and it's about put your best self forward. But you don't really want to oversell yourself or come across as desperate, and then leave them wanting more for a second date. And that's how we like to work. We want to have multiple interactions with a founder before we consider making an investment, because we want to get to know you. So the best way to do that is part of this process.
And is it so easy to raise money in this political environment?
Okay, so I don't think the VC market has changed significantly, because funds raise money. There's a funding cycle. If you've got the capital committed, you need to go and deploy it. So that's a very kind of long tail impact. I don't really see that. And I think most of the VCs that I know who are raising, particularly at the seed stage, are probably raising bigger funds, because I think people see there's an opportunity in the seed space. However, I do think that some angels are sitting on their hands, particularly angels who perhaps are employed. They might be bankers or accountants or consultants, quite highly paid people who put some of their income into startups. I think have slowed down or stopped because they're worried about whether they're going to have a job, 6-12 months' time.
And what are some of the challenges, do you think, what are some of the opportunities for funds to invest in companies in the political environment?
So, funny enough, I think the political environment affects two main things. I think it affects companies that want to start in the UK and then expand into mainland Europe. Particularly, I'm thinking fintech businesses that want to use passporting or some other tool like that, which may not be available in 2 months' time. We've got no idea. But I think most companies who are setting up in the UK probably look to the US as being their next market they're going to. So it really makes very little difference. And I think most of the entrepreneurs that I meet you wouldn't know Brexit's going on, in the sense that they're still optimistic, they still believe they can build a business, they still believe people are going to buy from them. So I actually think generally things are not as bad as the press make out. The one area of concern, I think, for me is around talent and recruitment. And I think it's twofold. One is actually, a lot of people from the EU who are very talented are going back to their home country. So the talent pool is potentially shrinking. And I think the other thing is, what are the visa arrangements going to be going forward to get talent into the country? And I think there was talk of, £30,000 minimum, which might be okay for developers. But again, it's all up in the air, who knows? So I think it's just, talent is hard anyway, but I just think that adds just an extra layer of difficulty for companies looking to recruit. And I think particularly sort of tech talent in London.
So I guess talking about long term, where does Playfair want to be in 5 years? So we call it a BHAG, so a big hairy audacious goal. Okay, so
in 5 years, I like to think that we have had a number of good exits from the first fund and the second fund, and we've raised a third fund, which is probably not actually that hairy and audacious. It's probably what success looks like for us, but that's certainly where I'd like to be.
And what's the biggest exit you want to have?
It's $1 billion, right? I think everyone says $1 billion. I think I mentioned it briefly before, but sort of, the power law of VC, we talk about fund returners. So, we want to have, obviously one, but, ideally a couple of companies in there that really smash it out of the park. That's the ambition.
Awesome. Well, a couple of questions to finish off. What are the biggest mistakes entrepreneurs make?
So I think entrepreneurs sometimes make the mistake of working too much in their business rather than on their business. And what I mean by that is that they've got an idea, they've got a plan, and they want to execute on it. So they start doing the things you do. So they start sending emails and flyering and making calls and just making it happen. But sometimes they don't step back to think about, am I doing the right thing? So, customer feedback is just the most vital thing. And one of the things that I took away from my time at Plan.com was that, we used to run partner forums every 3 months or so, and we would take our highest performing partners. We would take them, we went to Old Trafford, we went to Twickenham. Okay, if you're a startup, you don't have to do that. You can take them to Starbucks or the pub or whatever. But we asked them, what do you like about what we're doing? And actually when we said, and they said, oh, it's all great. I said, no, really, what do you like or not like about what we're doing? And then you got them to start moaning. And if you've got customers who are moaning, that's great, because it means that they care and it means they want to give you feedback. So I think that age-old, get something out there, get initial people using it, iterate, and based on feedback. I don't think you can go too far wrong. But I think the mistake I think people make is actually going a little bit too far down the line, spending too much money without having an MVP and having that initial feedback.
Best book for entrepreneurs to read?
So I'm reading a book at the moment by John Doerr, which is about OKRs. And Joe Thornton, again at Playfair, introduced OKRs to me. So, I'm very familiar with target setting. Mm-hmm. Everything I've ever done has been target setting. I ran sales teams with sales targets. But the very specific way that you put together OKRs, making them measurable, is something that I think is really important for founders. Because particularly when your business starts to have some early success, you will be pulled in all different kinds of directions, and it's actually really hard to know what you should focus on doing at any one time. If you tie it back to your objectives and you tie it back to your key results and that are measurable, that is incredibly powerful. So it's a good book. I think like a lot of business books, it probably repeats the same message a little bit more than is necessary. But then again, I read it cover to cover because I actually thought it was worth just seeing all the different scenarios that had been used successfully.
Awesome. What is one piece of advice you would give to an entrepreneur?
So I think passion is so important. So if you're not passionate about what you're doing, then I think you need to really think about your business. So that almost sounds a little bit negative, but what I mean is if you are passionate about your business, it comes across in every interaction you have with potential customers, with investors, with angels, with VCs. And that to me actually is a really key differentiator. It's not actually about your revenue numbers. It's not about how good your website looks. It is a personal quality of the founder that is so important to me. If you're passionate about it, it will carry you through an awful long way.
Awesome. Well, any of our audience who are looking to raise, how can they find out more about Playfair?
So they can just go to our website, playfair.com. We've actually got a new website coming hopefully in the next month or so, but they can contact us through there. You can obviously, it's not hard to find me on LinkedIn or on Twitter. And one thing that we try to do, we try to get back to everybody. So it's something that I think having been an angel, is just something I've always done. We believe in getting back to everybody. Okay, we can't necessarily take an in-depth look at your company, but at least we can try and point you in the right direction or give you some constructive feedback on, why the deal's not for us.
Awesome. Chris, thank you very much and good luck.
Great, thanks very much.
So another fantastic guest on the Makers podcast. Now we just have a quick message from our friends over at Market Minds. Are you interested in insurance innovation and want to know where you fit in? Market Minds, creators of Insurance 3.0, the world's largest one-day insurtech conference, are hosting the IFT Summit on March the 6th. The agenda is set to be awesome. Titans from insurance, finance, and tech-giving individuals will be giving the most exciting, up-to-date insights of the market since fintech. Now, if you're a startup, investor, or anyone interested in figuring out how to join the insurance innovation ecosystem, this is the event for you. Simply head over to marketmindsgroup.com or IFT Summit on Eventbrite for more details. We would love to see you there. Thank you, and don't forget to subscribe.